Treacy, I'll tell you a very funny story regarding that incident. I worked with Michael Jackson. I depigmented, sort of his skin. And one day we were in a situation with Michael where we were using hydroquinone and we were up to 6% and it wasn't fully working. So what I had decided to do was get a new compound called amylon, and I was depigmenting the bottom of his leg. Michael had vitiligo, so we just depigmented his hands and from his neck up and from his ankles, but he was black and white in other places. And when I was doing this on his leg, Michael's phone rang, and we were supposed to be doing a HIV concert in Green Park here in CapeTown, and we're going to go from Rwanda down because his friend was in Rwanda, and the amylon was hardening on his leg, and I sort of turned around and Michael says, check this call, and I said, who is it? And is it the concert promoter? He said, yeah. And I turned around and said, look at this stuff's hardening, and you can imagine it was almost setting like plaster Paris on Michael's leg. So I turned around and the cell phone sort of had up here, and I said, hi, are you the concert promoter? And he turned around and says, no, my son is promoting the concert. And I turned around and I didn't know really what to say to him. And I said, where are you calling from? Are you calling from CapeTown? And he said, yes, I'm in CapeTown. And I said, oh, I used to live in CapeTown. And he says, where did you live? I said, I lived in Clifton, I lived in Bantry Bay. And he says, oh, I'm just below him. And I said, oh, so where did you live before you were in CapeTown? And Michael turned around and said, that's my grandfather. I said, your grandfather? He says, Madiba. I said, Madiba? And then he took the phone, and I realized it was Nelson Mandela. And I had been asking him, where did you live before you were in CapeTown? So I asked him for the phone back, but he put it in his pocket, and he says, he's got Alzheimer's, he'll forget it. So, sorry the story went that way, but it's wonderful to be back in CapeTown.